This is Mike Brewer behind the wheel. Automotive news, automotive advice, and tyre smoking fun. Join me, the Brit with the wit, and my car-loving co-host, Brad Fanshaw. Hello everyone, it's Mike Brewer behind the wheel, and I'm looking forward to taking you on a journey of motoring, expertise, fun, facts, and all the stuff that we embrace ourselves with, this wonderful hobby that we love, the classic car and motoring world. Now, together, we are going to go down this journey, but the man who always grabs the passenger door, and I do like travelling with him because he's always got the best snacks, he always shouts shotgun whenever I'm hitting the road, is my passenger, and he seems very willing. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brad Fanshaw.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
I'm all right, Brad. Yeah, ready for the journey?
I am. I'm always looking forward to these because you take us to the best places.
Anyway, let's hit the road.
Let's go.
Right, the door is shut, my foot is on the throttle, and my wingman, as ever, is my ever-loving car host. Mr. Brad Fanshaw is sitting beside me with a big smile on his face because today we're in a silent car.
It's a very quiet car.
It's incredibly quiet because it's electric, Brad.
Is that why?
It's electric. We're in an electric car because electric cars are all the rage at the moment, thanks due in part to something that happened in my hometown just recently, which was the royal wedding. We had Prince Harry marry Meghan Markle. I don't know if you noticed.
I didn't know that your hometown was Kensington Palace.
Well, I wish it was. No, it's Londinium, dear boy, Londinium. So just outside London was Windsor, Windsor Castle, the most famous castle in the world, owned by Her Royal Majesty the Queen. And they had the royal wedding there, and it's fantastic. I love it because here I am, a Brit doing well in Los Angeles, and we have a girl from Los Angeles doing quite well in Britain.
Exactly. I mean, and 1 billion people around the world tuned in. 2 billion?
2 billion, they reckon now.
My goodness.
2 billion people. Yeah, it put England very squarely on the map, and it made it look amazing. The weather was fantastic, and get this: both me and Michelle were at home that weekend. We were flying back actually to the US, and I was invited to the royal wedding. Me and Michelle were invited,
and you didn't go.
We couldn't go because we were flying back to Los Angeles.
Wow.
Would like to have gone though. It looked really good. I'd like to have sat next to Elton.
I thought you were gonna show up there. I said to Charlotte, my wife, I said, Mike's he's not really back there for any promotion.
Of course I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
It's the royal family. Why wouldn't I be there? Hey, of course I was, but no, unfortunately, I was on an aeroplane flying back here.
So you gave your tickets to Beckham, and he went.
And he went instead. Yeah. I just wanted to sit next to Elton because he's the real Queen of England, isn't he? So I just wanted to sit next to him for a minute. But see what I did there. But if I did go to the royal wedding, I could have taken Harry his little car.
That E-Type.
He was pretty cool in that car. And I'll tell you for why. Because His Royal Highness, if you're listening to this, young Henry, I drove that car before you. Quite a way before. Yeah, I drove that car. The electric E-Type, they let me have a go in that at a factory back in November, was it, last year? It must have been November last year. I went to the factory, had a little tour around, see those beautiful XK SSs they made, the 9 missing chassis numbers.
The 9 missing. Now, Mike, so I know that, as we look back at the Royals and like that, they had Royal tasters to make sure that the food was, safe.
Yeah.
So were you the royal test driver?
Of course. They wanted to find somebody that's got the same stature and the same body shape and frame as Prince Harry. So inevitably,
I can see it.
They just defaulted to me, and they said, "Come down, have a look at this car, check it out." And I did check it out, and I've got to tell you, it's two sides to me with this one. Here we go. Right. So I can pull my little soapbox out. I can stand on it if you like.
So we're going to see pros and cons here.
Well, because this is such a divided opinion, isn't it? Right. So you're going to take a classic car and electrify it. Now, I've done this on my TV show. We took a Maserati bi-turbo.
I remember that episode, yes.
And we electrified it. And I'm going to tell you, when you think about it, what we actually did to that car, some people may be now, turning this off and thinking I'm being sacrilegious here. But when you think about it, we made a Maserati bi-turbo go from 0 to 60 in 6 seconds, have a top speed of 145 miles an hour, and have a range of 300 miles, which is better than when the car was new. When the car was at a V6 engine.
Yeah, it's, and for people that haven't driven electric cars, They're fast. It's immediacy.
It's incredible. It's a light switch. It's
Yes.
either on or it's off. So they are incredible. So that side of me goes, it's just so incredible. And I want, on the show that I do, we wanted to show that, electrifying of classic cars is on its way. There's a load of companies here in California taking anything from Volkswagen Beetles, Type 2s, even Porsche 911s. I've seen them electrify them. And they make them go a lot quicker than the original car and a lot better. And they're silent. And being here in California, being green is a very positive thing to do. But this is the other side of me. Where do you draw the line? I mean, an E-Type Jaguar is an E-Type Jaguar. When Malcolm Sawyer drew that car all those years ago, he didn't think that one day it's going to be powered by a vacuum cleaner. He thought this is a car that's going to have that amazing 3.4 or 4.2 litre or V12 engine. This is a car that's just going to be, it's a gas car. This is a car you put your foot down, that exhaust note, those 4 little tailpipes just out
and
the
that
back.
clatter of valves and the...
It's even got the name Jaguar.
Exactly, yes.
It's a cat. It's a Jaguar. So there's a little bit of me that goes, I don't know, putting an electric engine in one, is that a good idea? I can see why they do it and why this has happened. So let's take Harry's little drive, for example. First of all, that's now become a halo for a brand, isn't it? They've now got a Halo brand, electric E-Type. The car is quicker from 0 to 60 than it was in 1968. They debuted that car in 2017, in September 2017. I got to drive it just after that. Now, that car, 0 to 60, 2, not 60. They're very specific here.
They're very specific.
They're very specific. I wonder why they did that. It's 0 to 62. Why can't we just have a 0 to 60?
They probably didn't want to say because it was 5.43 seconds.
Yeah.
They wanted to just round it up to 5.
Yeah, so it's 5.5 seconds to 62 miles an hour.
How about that top mile per hour, though?
The top miles per hour of the car, you ready? I mean, an E-Type, I think the fastest it's the reason, I do believe the reason we have speed limits on the motorways in England is because they tested them up and down the motorway. And top speed back then would have been about, 140, 150 miles an hour. But the electric one has got a range of 170 miles. And the top speed, I think
I didn't put it on here. I apologize for that. But I had read that it was 150.
150?
Yeah.
100.
And 125 was previous, so it's increased its top speed as well.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Has a range of 170 miles. It's got a 40 kilowatt battery. Can be recharged in under 7 hours, but they can do a fast charge on it as well. Price.
Yeah, the price kind of where it all kind of goes. It's not as exciting anymore.
Well, it was exciting, and then it got less exciting. This car, obviously the wedding car, the one that I drove, obviously I think the notoriety of this car has nothing to do with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. It's going to be the fact that I drove it. This car's now got a price tag of fast approaching $500,000.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, we are talking 350,000 British pounds.
For a fully restored E-Type.
It's a fully restored car with a washing machine motor.
But I mean, with a gas motor, what would it go for?
Funny because the reason I was also at the factory is to have a little look down the rebirth line. So Jaguar and Land Rover are going through a rebirthing stage at the moment. If you want to know what rebirthing is, it's basically manufacturers. Now, when you think about the world that we live in, lots of cars don't conform to any kind of modern safety standards, and cars these days have to have crumple zones, impact zones. They have to have side impact protection, airbags. They have to have safety glass. They have to have pedestrian safety. All cars manufactured now have to have that. So, therefore, when you manufacture your cars in that kind of way, you take away some of the essence of what made the car in the first place. And it's very hard to make a car look and feel like the old version of the car, but with all these modern safety implementations they have to do. One of the companies that are more or less nailing it at the moment, I would say, is Ford with the Mustang. They've got a thoroughly modern 2017 Mustang model. That thoroughly modern looking car looks very retro. Still looks like a.
It has the essence, right?
Has the essence of an original Mustang, and it's a very iconic looking shape, and they've nailed it. Jaguar have never done that again with the E-Type, have they? They've never made another iconic looking shape. So what these companies have decided to do, and obviously they need to think about their past customers. See, lots of manufacturers these days just want to kick cars out the showroom door and send them off down the road. And the last thing they want to see is their customers coming back. They don't want their customers coming back because they've got a problem. But what if you do want your customers coming back? What if you do want to reward your customers by giving them something that they can't buy anywhere else, and turning up at car events and turning up at classic car meets with a big stand and supporting the cars of old? And that's exactly what Jaguar Land Rover have done. And that's part of their rebirth range. So they are buying back Jaguar Series 1 E-Types globally. They will buy a car from, whether it's in South Africa, Australia, England, or here in California or somewhere in New York. They've got buyers all over the world. They're buying these cars back. They are taking them back to the factory. Me and Michelle walk down the factory production line. They take these cars apart to every single nut, bolt, screw, clasp, fastener, even unglue the panels if they're glued together. They just basically take the car back to every individual component. Every component gets completely refreshed and refurbished, and then every component gets put back together with modern thread locks, greases, lubricants, hoses, clips and fasteners. Everything gets put back together, and they fundamentally rebirth the car. It comes with a new car guarantee. So you can walk into your Jaguar dealer and look, if you want to, at the brand new F-Pace, but you could, if you wanted to, order yourself a Series 1 E-Type Jaguar. Starting price of those about £300,000, so that's again, we're approaching $500,000, but these are basically brand new cars. Land Rover are doing it with the on the same production line, or just beside it. That's called the rebirth line for the Land Rover Series 1. So they're buying back anything from 1948, I think, to 1959.
They've been buying a lot of those in America.
They've been buying tons of them, and they're shipping them back to England. The 80-inch short wheelbase, they've been pulling those apart, basically down to their bare components again, and then they're rebirthing them, and they're knocking those out about just over $100,000.
And a lot of these components that you're talking about, because they literally do completely disassemble everything. And there were some components for those two vehicles that they couldn't even access anymore because the manufacturers had gone up. And I read an article about how they are 3D printing those parts.
Yep, you can 3D print parts. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
It is amazing. And to see for me, a mad classic car enthusiast, to be stood at the end of that production line as the guy was just putting on the final wiper blade of a 1948 Series 1 80-inch Land Rover, and he was just putting the wiper blade on, and it was started up for the first time, the engine cranked, and it drove off in front of me and my wife. For me, that was just the most thrilling thing.
Yeah,
absolutely,
it's incredible.
thrilling. And when they say it's a rebirth, it really is a rebirth. New car guarantee, there you go. Off it goes down the road. They're doing it with Series 1. Not a lot of people know this. The Series 1 Range Rover, I'll just educate the people out there a little bit. Series 1 Range Rover, 1970, that'd be the two-door Range Rover. Now, we have a brand new 2018 Range Rover at the moment, which they have moved away from the name Range Rover, and they call it the Velar. Have you seen that?
I have not seen that yet.
Okay, so they've got this new vehicle out at the moment. They call it Velar, V-E-L-A-R. So Velar, that's a weird name. Where'd that come from? It should be a Range Rover. It looks like a Range Rover, just a bit more funky, a bit more rounded and contemporary. Well, that name, they've rebirthed that name, if you like, for the modern era, because the two-door 1970 Range Rover, the code name for that is Velar.
Really?
Yeah.
You just taught us something.
Yeah, there you go.
Now,
I'm always here to educate.
Now, this 70, is this the what I call in the pushed-in nose, where the the fenders almost stick out a little farther than the grill in the front, or is that even earlier?
No, I think you're talking about exactly that car.
Yeah.
The front of the car has got 2 round headlamps. It's got horizontal grille, almost Jeep-like. The fenders are a little bit proud of the headlamps, and it's got that very simple black bumper on the front. There are always black bumpers, front and rear, on those cars at a time when we had chrome on cars.
Yeah.
And Range Rover come to market with black bumpers. A very clever concept for that car. I genuinely had my eyes open recently, and I'm, me and you, Brad, we learn something new every day. I thought us British people, we invented the world of luxurious SUVs with the Range Rover. I thought that was us. I thought, that's the first time that a manufacturer took what is basically a 4x4, a farmer's car. They put nice velour seats in it, electric windows, so that farmer could go to the opera in the evening. And that's what I thought we invented. But how wrong am I? Because actually the Grand Wagoneer was 1962. So that was a full 7 or 8 years before the Range Rover. Jeep done that with the Grand Wagoneer. They put luxurious seats in it. They coupled together for the first time ever a 4-wheel drive automatic gearbox. First time that ever happened, and Jeep pioneered that. And it was Range Rover that came after.
Yeah, it was when they were trying to expand their brand and say, we can't just, the war's over. We can't just sell Jeeps anymore. And they were expanding into more passenger cars. And like you said, something that could be multiple use.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you, here's a little factoid for you. This factoid is going to sound so ridiculous.
I just like the word factoid. So
it's
lay
great,
it on
isn't
me.
it?
Yeah.
This is going to sound so ridiculous that you're going to go, that's not true. That's simply not true. Well, I'll tell you how ridiculous it is, because I wrote about it in a book, and I thought it's so not true, I changed the number. So, Willys, they made the famous World War II Willys Jeep.
Yes.
They made 750,000 Willys Jeeps. That's what was printed, and that's what they made, 750,000. But they made enough spare parts to rebuild each of those Jeeps how many times? Well, go on, have a guess.
I'm going to say twice.
Right, if you think twice is... Hold on, these vehicles went to a war zone, Brad, right? Lots of them went to a war zone.
They got blown up, they got
kept blowing up.
beat
So
up.
you're thinking, right, if I'm going to... They're going to get beaten up, they're going to get really used. So if you're going to print 750,000 Jeeps, you want enough spare parts to service one Jeep how many times? Not twice, it's going to be more than that.
Yeah, you get... And they're going all over the world.
Yeah, of course.
Maybe 4 times.
4 times, that's what I would have said. If I had to take a drink...
Go back to the last episode, quadruple.
Yes, right, quad. Right, you ready for this? And this is where it becomes like, Mike, you've just made this up. They made enough spare parts to rebuild every one of the 750,000 Willys Jeeps 15,000
Oh, Mike,
times.
you just made that up. Come on.
Well, in fact, I thought it was so incredulous and absolutely ridiculous that when I wrote it in my book, I wrote 1,500 times. And I thought I must have made a mistake in my research. And I wrote 1,500 times. Oh, did I make a mistake? Because the world told me. No, the Jeep aficionados out there, they wrote to me in their hundreds and went tub thumping on social media and said that I made a fundamental mistake. And it's 15,000 times. So what I'm trying to say... If you want to go and buy yourself a Jeep, go and buy one, because there's an abundance of spare parts still out there to keep your Jeep running, I think, literally forever.
Now tell me something. When you were younger, did you ever see in the back of Automotive magazines in the UK where you could buy a Army surplus U.S. Jeep in a crate?
No.
So over here, when I was growing up...
Is this for real?
Yes, because just along what you were saying...
This is one of those made-up stories, isn't it?
No, it used to be, if you go back in old magazines, you can find them. And they were so inexpensive, and I wanted to buy one so bad. And my dad wouldn't let me because he said, no, I had a friend who ordered one. They were like... It was like $200 or something.
You're kidding? Seriously?
And this would have been in the 70s, and it was... he said that the Jeep came packed in a crate, in sawdust, and every part was in heavy grease, because that's how they shipped them around the world, and they You had to. It was like a kit. It was like a full-size model kit. You had to put the thing together.
You didn't buy one.
First of all, I had to paper out, Mike, so $200 was a lot of money. And second of all, Dad said, no, you're not bringing that, because I guess his friend had bought one, and it was such a mess because grease and sawdust and having to clean every part and literally assembling it. And my dad wasn't a car guy, so that's my dad was a car guy. Go down to the dealership, buy a car, and when it needed service, go to the dealership.
If only our parents did better.
If they would have let me buy, I could have.
If only they did better. What's going on? What?
But can you imagine that?
I mean,
you could buy a Willys surplus
That's
Jeep
amazing.
and put it together. Think if you could get that today.
That is amazing. And there you go. So that little weeny chat between us, look what we learned.
I know.
We learned so much. But congratulations to the royal couple, to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex.
Now, do you have any idea, do they get to keep that car, or was that just a loaner for them to drive?
Oh, no, it's just a loaner. No, Jaguar will now be hawking that car around the world and saying it's the Harry and Meghan
That's
car.
what I was
and that's
wondering,
what they'll be doing with it, that's for sure. But no, you know what? It was so nice. There was so much love at that wedding. And I think just topping it off with that nice bit of classic car. We got a classic car in there for us car guys at the end. You know, when you think about it, it was brilliant for our hobby and for the enthusiasts out there to see an E-Type Jaguar.
Yeah, it was great.
Being used at a wedding. It was brilliant. I think William's wedding, didn't they use the dad's Aston Martin, didn't they?
Yes.
And he drove away in that. So it's really nice that the royal family are into their classic cars. And yeah, congratulations to the royal couple. And we look forward to seeing them over it. Me and Michelle sat in the front row with William and Harry once, and Charles, at a pop concert. It was really good.
Oh, cool.
We see Lionel Richie.
He was dancing on the ceiling.
He was dancing on the ceiling. He was amazing, and we sat in the same row as them, and they were clapping and bopping away. So good luck to him. It was very good. Right, now, let's move on to another news story.
We talked about social media on the last show.
We did talk about social media, yeah. On episode 11, go and find it. We spoke about the abuse of social media and the way it's been abused by people to abuse other people. And we spoke about that. But now let's talk about somebody who I actually really admire. I mean, we're big fans of him here at our podcast at Mike Brewer.
Episode 1 was almost all about him.
It was all about him, Mr. Elon Musk. And why we like him is because he is he's the man that I think every young boy wanted to be. He's the man that created a business and started to fire rockets into space and even put a man in a car on his way to Mars. I mean, gee whiz, what a fantastic thing to do.
Flamethrowers and boring machines.
Exactly. And then this man created the world's most audacious electric car company and the most successful electric car company in the world. That is a man. Remember, this is just a person that started this company as well as putting stuff into space. And he took his company and made it mainstream like any other modern manufacturer, like the 54 brands that are out there. One man did that. And he did it in an incredible way. But this is a company that's grown so fast and so quickly, and it's developed so quickly that possibly some things have gone a little bit of awry on the way. One is, like the rest of the world and me, I've got very excited over the Model 3 Tesla. Now, the Model 3 is this more smaller saloon car, sedan here in America. It looks like the Model X, which is the bigger, luxurious sedan. But this is a slightly smaller one, 5-door, looks really cool. And it came at a price point under $30,000, under, that's around 23,000 pounds. It came at a price point that made it just the same as any other regular car that you walk into your Ford Chevy dealer to go and buy. And so therefore people queued up, and they still are. I went to the shopping mall the other day, and they're still queuing around the block to put down their $1,000 deposits on these cars. And
which when you talk about breaking new ground like you just were,
amazing.
No other car company has ever done that, where it's hey, we're going to make this. Here's what it might kind of look like.
Yep.
So give us your deposits, and in 2 to 3 years we'll have it for you.
Yeah, it's crowdfunding. It's
yes.
crowdfunding, but at a manufacturer's level. But what Mr. Tesla, Elon, has done is been very clever, because they don't sell cars in the traditional way at car dealerships and car showrooms. These are shops that are in shopping malls. So it's like going into an Apple store. Me and Michelle recently went to the biggest South Coast Plaza, biggest shopping centre in America, and we recently went there, and there are people, literally, there's barriers outside of a Tesla. There's barriers outside of a car dealership.
It's exactly like an Apple store. You hit it on the head, where they only let so many people in, and if there's something big going on, there's a line.
Yeah, there's a line. There was a line around the block, and I was thinking, why is there a line around the block? And it's all for people to queue up and put down their $1,000 deposits. This is a 7-day-a-week operation from 8 o'clock in the morning through till 10 o'clock at night. There's a line around the block. People are putting $1,000 deposits, £800 or thereabouts deposits down on these cars. So now, you must have think globally there's been quite a bit of money sloshing around in Mr. Musk's pocket. Enough, you would think, to start getting these cars out the door, start kicking them out the door, start making these people happy.
Hundreds of millions of dollars are coming.
Hundreds of millions, right? So now's the time to start delivering the cars. And a few of them have actually been delivered. But they haven't lived up to the hype, we understand. Is that right?
The vast majority has not been delivered, and people are now kind of saying, I gave you my money a couple of years ago. When am I going to get my car? Yeah.
Right, okay. So we've got nothing against Mr. Musk at all, because we think he's a genius, but we have to think of the consumer as well, and the consumer is waiting to get his car. So these are, some people have tub-thumped, and they've been very vocal about it, and a few magazines have picked up the story, a bit like we are doing now. They picked up the story and they've run with it, and it's made some headlines on some very well-known motoring websites. And so Mr. Musk has come out.
He's feeling the pressure, let's say.
He's a little bit under pressure.
Yeah.
I don't want him to be. Just think of your rocket man in space and have another puff of the joint. Just have another puff of that. Relax. We're in California. You can do that now. Just relax, man. Because he's gone online to say that he's going to create a website where the public can get to the core truth of any article and track the credibility score of each and every journalist, editor and publication. He's thinking of calling it Pravda. Pravda, like the
Pravda. The Russian bloc, Pravda.
Ah, Pravda.
Pravda.
Right, I didn't say it right.
I'm thinking of calling it Pravda.
Right, so this is now a call to Mr. Musk. We know that he's a big fan of me and Brad. We know he listens in every week because we just got that feeling he loves us.
Because we're electric.
That's
why.
Yeah, there you go. We talk about him. We hold him up there, and we think he's a great guy. But we really want him to track our credibility and score us as journalists, editors, and our publication. Please, we would like you to do that because what he wants to do is basically call out journalists and say, you're just making up poo and your stories ain't true. He says in another one of his posts, problem is journos are under constant pressure to get maximum clicks and earn advertising dollars or get fired. Now that sounds kind of familiar to what you're doing with a Tesla free, doesn't
yeah,
it?
exactly.
Hold on a minute. You're under constant pressure to get maximum clicks to get more dollars. Doesn't that sound like you're on the Tesla website ordering something? Tricky situation as Tesla doesn't advertise, and this is the bit where he could be in trouble here. Because, again, I do admire the man, but he has just put the boxing gloves on and he's now about to take on Exxon, BP. He's about to take on the big companies because he says fossil fuel companies, gas and diesel car companies are among the world's biggest advertisers. So he's saying that the journalists are in the pocket of the global oil companies.
Yeah, and that they're just saying this because he's taking sales. I mean, now he's fought before. Arizona is a state that protects their car dealers, dramatically. They, in the state of Arizona, they have some archaic laws where you have to sell your car at a physical dealership, and Tesla, tried to fight them, didn't win. They don't sell cars there, I don't believe, to this day. You can order them online. there's a time when some people like this, they got to check their ego at the door too.
Yeah, I just think for Elon, he's become such a global figure, and he's held in such high admiration for many entrepreneurs and for many young people and people that love science and engineering and technology. I don't want him to let himself down. I feel sorry for the guy. I don't want him to do this. I don't want him to.
No,
don't take a fight to journalists. Just carry on doing what you're doing. Get your head down. Make these cars. Get people their cars out the door. Make sure they're the best cars they can possibly be, and keep shining a light on the car industry.
Because what he's actually done is he's raised the bar, and every other electric car that's coming from Ford, GM, the Jaguar that we just talked about, they're all better because of what he's done.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's moved it so far forward. So keep doing that.
Well, he gave his technology away.
He did.
He did. So he said, Do you
think he ever regrets that?
Yes and no. I think what he's done is he's genuinely a man who wants to better the world.
Right.
And I think that's a good thing, if he wants to better the world. But, up until these two posts on the internet, I would have thought this was a man who's a great candidate for being a presidential leader in the future. This is a man who really knows business, knows companies, knows how to grow things, knows how to expand. He knows about the future. He knows about everything. This is a guy who's
he knows how to get things done. I mean, look at the boring project where
they're going to fire people down the tubes,
and they've already started drilling. It's like, how did he get that through all of the governmental regulations like that already?
Buy the land. Just buy the land.
Know.
Buy the land. Simple as that. 27 miles they built of it, apparently.
I know.
You can, at 27 miles, I think you get in the tube at one end, and 15, 20 seconds later, you get the tube at the other end. It's like that quick.
You try that and let me know how it works.
Yeah, it'd be quite good. I'd like to try it. I think that'd be great.
I'd like to try it after quite a few other tests.
Yeah, other people. Yes. Yeah, run a few other people up and down it first.
Put Starman in a number of times, then we'll try it.
And then we'll try it. But no, great guy, great company, doing amazing things. But we'd like to see him just be that man, the leader that he is.
Think about one closing thought on that.
Yeah.
What do you think the pressure is right now on the employees there?
Huge. I mean, it's just going to be gigantic.
It has to be.
Must be one of the most exciting places to work in the world, but it also has to be one of the most terrifying places to work in the world. It has to be, because the pressure on you is just immense. But let's hope he changes the world for the better. Now, talking of work, I've got another gig that I've got to do.
What do you got to do?
Now, me and you talk a lot, about car auctions. And,
yes.
The thrill of car auctions and what happens at car auctions and how good car auctions are.
We love car auctions.
We do love car auctions. And I've been asked to be the presenter at Barrett-Jackson again.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so I'm going up to Connecticut.
You're going to go up to the Upper East Coast.
Upper East Coast, and I'm going to be doing Barrett-Jackson live on Discovery Global Networks all over the world, and I'm very, very excited about doing it because I'm so used to this Southern Californian, the cars that are turned out down here, which are amazing. I've not really had much time to look at the way cars are turned out up in the Northeast. So I'm very, very excited to see the mixture of cars up there. And being it's a car auction, it's an amazing atmosphere anyway. So I'm very excited about all of it.
And Barrett-Jackson, I mean, when they went up there, everybody kind of went, well, we'll see how that goes. It was a hit from the very first one.
Of course.
Because people were hungry for it up there. The East Coast, everybody forgets. The East Coast is so densely populated. There's so much population in a small area that, it was destined to be a hit.
Well, I can't wait. I really can't, and I'm looking forward to working with the amazing team that they have that work at Barrett-Jackson. It's a huge operation, great big satellite trucks. We have directors and controllers, and I work. I've got a couple of bosses there. They're obviously listening in right now. I hope they are. They're two absolutely phenomenal guys that I just, it's a thrill going to do it and work with such professional people. So if you get a chance, make sure you tune in and find us on TV. And
give us the dates of that. Do you know it off the top of your head?
Yes, I do. It's the middle of June.
Yeah, so because it's a great, I mean, they do such spectacular event coverage because if you've never been to the Barrett-Jackson events, they are just an automotive. It's just a wonderland because you've got lifestyle events, you have driving, you have the auction, you have, the vendor rows. And for them to encapsulate that into the program that they do is quite the undertaking.
It really is. It's from the 21st to the 23rd of June. And when you say it's the undertaking, it's gigantic. I mean, the operation is huge. I can't wait. So look out for me. If you're going to Barrett-Jackson, you're in Connecticut and you're coming along, you're in that area, come and say hi. You might see me with a microphone in my hand, but please come and say hello. I love talking to people and sharing my car enthusiasm and passion with them. Now,
when that producer tries to stop them and says, no, he's on the air live, can they just go, well, no, Mike said I can come and say hi?
Okay, yeah. So I was gonna take a question off of somebody. It was just somebody that I actually can't remember the guy's name, but he stopped me in the street and he asked me a question, and it was basically about paint. He stopped me and he said, I see your mechanic, my buddy Ansted. He said, I see him paint a car the other day on the show. He painted a Datsun 510. He did an amazing job of it. And he said, how easy was it to paint that car? And then it was a question. He said, how easy was it to paint that car? Because I've got a car that I need painting and I want to know the best way to go about it because I can't afford the thousands of dollars it's going to cost me to go to a paint shop to do it. So I was thinking of doing it myself at home. And that was a really good question. And I thought it was one worthy of an answer. I think the guy's name was Gary. So, Gary, I do apologise if I can't remember your surname, but,
We'll just call him Gary on the street.
Yeah, Gary on the street. There you go. Gary Streets.
Yeah, Gary Streets.
There you go. This is a question from Gary Streets. So, Gary, what's the best way to paint a car? Well, I'm going to tell you, and the likes of Brad Fanshaw, Chip Foose, and many other car restorers around the world will tell you, paint. 90% of paint is the preparation.
That's absolutely right.
It's not the paint itself. Okay, so you can have the best paint gun, the best paint, the best colour, the best everything in the whole widey worldy. You could be in a cross-draft booth and you could have beautiful LED lighting that car up. But if the car isn't prepared properly, your paintwork is going to look like a pile of mush. So what you need to do, Gary, is you need to spend more time on preparing the car for paint than the actual paint itself. And that comes down to a number of different ways. You need to make sure that every panel on that car is as laser straight as you can get it. Now, when we say laser straight, it's very difficult to do that with a car that's been blocked, sanded, and it's been rubbed down. But you need to, if you can, find any kind of eyeline reflection in any way down the bodywork. The way that I like to do it is use panel wipe. So I use as much panel wipe as I can on the panels. That's it's like a very toxic thing, so make sure you're wearing a mask when you're doing it. But if I use panel wipe, it leaves a sheen on the car just for enough time, seconds, for you to fix a reflection in the paintwork of the car, or what the paintwork, the bodywork of the car, and see if there's any ripples in it. You need to get that car straight. Also, very important, shut lines. Shut lines are, oh God, they are so important. So make sure that you trim and adjust all the shut lines of the body panels, the bonnet, the doors. Make sure they're all nice and even. The other thing is, as well, do not do the mistake what these mass manufacture car paint shops do and leave the glass in, leave the rubber in, leave the door seals on. Just don't do it. Just take it all out. Take the glass out.
Strip that car down.
Strip that car down. Get as much of that car out as possible. Make sure you mask the car up really, really, really well. Make sure those body panels are as smooth as you could possibly get them. And don't be fearful of if you walk out the paint booth. And when I say paint booth, you can do this at your garage at home. What I'd recommend you do is you put some polystyrene sheeting on the walls all the way around. Put some polystyrene sheeting on the ground as well. A lot of paint falls on the floor. Doesn't fall if it doesn't hit the car and it's on its way out the gun to the car. It will just descend and hit the floor, so you don't want to ruin your workshop floor. So put some polystyrene sheeting down, get a low-energy fan in there, so that's all you need. Make sure the bodywork is as flat as you can get it. And when you hit it with that gun, and you're doing it for the first time, make sure you get a tester panel. Do it on a tester panel first. I do that all the time. I go to, you may see me at scrapyards I'll buy a bonnet off of anything. I'll buy a bonnet off a Chrysler Neon if I had to. It doesn't matter. If I can use that as a tester panel, I will do. So just put more air than paint through the gun and just do a little tester on a panel. Keep the gun moving all the time, backwards and forwards, in a nice even motion, and just take your time over it. But what I was going to say, if you walk out of the booth, this paint shop that you built at home, if you walk out for 10 seconds, trust me with this, if you walk out for 10 seconds because you forgot to turn the kettle off, you want to go and switch a generator on to get the fan working and get the air coming out of the gun. If you're going to walk out for 10 seconds and you walk back in, guess what? You have to panel wipe the vehicle again. Do not make the mistake of opening the door, walking back in and going, it's going to be all right. No, it won't be. You won't believe what comes into the contaminants that come into a paint booth, just that are in the air. So make sure that you do that. And you should, hopefully, if you follow that advice, end up with a pretty good paint job.
Yeah, the first car I ever painted was in a garage at home, wet down the floors, put plastic up like you said, but the very first thing you said, it's all in the prep. Because if you prep that car correctly, it's going to save you so much. If you get a little dust in the paint, you can color sand that out. But if it's underneath and that paint doesn't adhere, or like you said, the bodywork. And one of my tricks that I was taught early on, Mike, is that whenever you do any bodywork or something, I was taught that your eyes don't tell you as much as your fingers.
Correct.
And rubbing it over, and
Correct.
you can feel those little imperfections that you can't even see.
Absolutely correct. And I'm going to end this with one other thing, okay? If you're going to paint a car, whether it's professionally in a shop or you're going to do it at home, you have to avoid at all costs, no matter all costs, avoid any kind of silicone. I mean, any kind of silicone. So if you've got some tyre black and you're going to spray your tyres and spray them up black again with silicone spray, or you're going to make your dashboard nice and shiny again with some silicone spray, guess what? Paint is allergic to silicone. The two things hate each other like you cannot believe. And you will paint the car, and trust me, within an hour of you painting it, you'll walk out and you go, what's those little marks, those bubbles in the paintwork? Guess what that is? That's silicone that's in the air that's attached to bodywork. So make sure that you keep silicone as far away from paintwork as possible.
Now, I agree with that, but I thought you were heading in a whole different direction when you said the one thing that you absolutely got to avoid is letting your wife know that you're painting the car in the garage.
Yes, yeah. Of course. That was the number one rule. That was the number one rule. Well, listen, we hope you've been educated. We hope you've learned a lot. It's been fun to talk about the royal family. It's been fun to talk about E-Type and Elon Musk. And we hope you got a little bit of advice about painting cars. Keep your questions coming to me, Mike Brewer behind the wheel. Keep them coming on social media, Mike Brewer BTW. You can email me, mikebrewerbtw@gmail.com. Go and visit our website, MikeBrewerBTW.com on the website as well. Go and look there. We've got a photo gallery so you can flick through that. It's very cool. And make sure, I'm going to ask, I'm tub thumping here. Please, if you like this podcast, give us a rating. 5 stars would be great. Please give us a review. We really appreciate that. And please, all we're asking is just hit that subscribe button. The reason is there's an algorithm that uses all 3 of those processes, and it puts this show on the charts. And if this show remains top of the charts, me and Brad will turn up every week and do this for free. If it starts descending down the charts and we're thinking nobody's listening.
Yeah, because if they're not listening, we could go to car shows.
We could go to a car show.
Yeah.
We won't do it. But if you like listening, please join us. Brad, where can people find you online?
You want to have more fun? Follow me at Bond Speed Brad on Instagram. That's where I post all kinds of stuff. And you can find me on other social media at Brad Fanshaw.
And we'll be back next week with some more Mike Brewer from Behind the Wheel. But now the journey has come to an end.
I want to ask you, next episode's episode 13. Do we skip right to 14 or do we do it?
I'm not superstitious.
I think we should do something themed around superstitions in cars.
perfect. Let's do episode 13 and make it a superstitious episode.
Yes, we're going to do it. So get ready for that one.
Super. Bye-bye.
Thanks. This show brought to you in part by Bond Speed Wheels. Bond Speed Wheels, machined in America for cars, trucks, hot rods, and exotics. We make wheels for your lifestyle. Find us at bondspeedwheels.com.
If you need to get in touch with me or Brad, you can do. Ask us any question you like about motoring issues or a motoring related thing. If you've got something that you want to do to your car and you don't know how to do it, you want to sell your car, you want to advertise your car, you want to buy a car, you need some advice, then please reach out to us. You can find us on Twitter at Mike Brewer BTW. See what we did there? Genius.
Is that for behind the wheel?
It is. There you go.
Wow, how did you come up with that?
It's so good, isn't it? And we'll see you all next week.
This has been a Bond Speed Media production from Circle B Studios. If you like this show, also listen to Shift and Steer, Man Seeks Adventure, and Dixon's Wild Ride. You can subscribe to them on iTunes or visit their websites. If you'd like to reach Bond Speed Media, you can do so at bondspeedmedia@gmail.com.